Hello! This is my second commentary! Yay! How fun! Except this time I'm going to be joined by my friend Hunter. He's helped me with the research and we'll have a bit at the end of the video where he talks about his experiences as a Therian, so stick around for that. Okay, today, if you haven't guessed by now, we're going to talk about Therians. First of all, what is a Therian? Therians are under the ultrahuman umbrella. Ultrahumans are individuals whose identity or experiences are different from the common understanding of humanity. A Therian is someone who non-physically identifies as a non-human animal, spiritually, psychologically, and or emotionally. Meaning they don't physically believe they're an animal, they know that they're human. Most Therians typically believe in past lives. Most Therians who do believe in past lives believe that the soul of their past life stuck with them to their current life. Others may believe that a soul from an animal just walked into their life one day. Of course, not all Therians are spiritual. Psychological Therians may occur through anything psychological, such as trauma, hyperfixation, imprinting, etc. You cannot just choose to be a Therian. There's a label like that though that I might talk about later. Something people get confused about Therians is that Therians and furries are the same thing. Now, a furry can identify as a Therian, but just because you're a Therian doesn't mean you're a furry, or vice versa. Furries are people who dress up as animals for fun. Most of the time, those animals are their OCs, which stands for original character. They're just cosplayers. Therians can express themselves similarly to furries, but not the same. They may wear masks or tails called gear that represents their stereotype, the animal they identify with. Masks and tails aren't the only thing Therians may wear. They could wear paw gloves, horns, or wings. It just depends more on their stereotype and what they own or have access to. Other things Therians may do to connect to their stereotype could be quadrobics, which are also called quads. This is a sport in which an individual moves around on all fours like an animal. Yes, it's an actual sport, meaning you don't have to be a Therian to do quads, just like you don't have to be a Therian to own or wear gear. Here are some clips of some Therians doing quads. Pretty cool, isn't it? Quads and gear are just a way for Therians to feel more connected to their stereotype. Another way for Therians to feel more connected to their stereotypes could be doing vocals. Vocals in the Therian community are when an individual will make animal-like noises, usually sounding like the person's stereotype. Vocals and quads aren't the only identifying traits of Therians. Some are more subtle, like shifts. A shift is a psychological change in which you can feel yourself shifting into your animal identity. There are many different types of shifts. Some shift examples are mental shifts, which is when your brain shifts to the mentality of your stereotype. Phantom shifts, which is when you can feel certain limbs from your stereotype. Like, for example, if your stereotype is a cat, you may feel a tail or ears. And cameo shifts, which is when someone has a shift from a stereotype that isn't theirs. Obviously, there are many other different kinds of shifts, but those are just some of them. Now, every Therian's experience is different from one another. So my friend Hunter is going to share his with you. Hi, Hunter! Say hi, Hunter.
Hi, Toby.
Hi! Okay, let's start. So, first off, what are your stereotypes? Or stereotype if you just have one.
My stereotype is a cross fox, which is a crossbreed between silver foxes and red foxes.
I'll just put an image up so you guys can see what that is if you don't know what it is. Okay, there. So, how did you figure out that you're a Therian?
Honestly, I had spent a while judging Therians when I was younger. One day, I saw a playlist made for one, so I started doing lots of research. After a long while of research and secondhand guessing myself, I had decided to look at my childhood. When I was younger, I had always done animalistic things, such as crawling. I was convinced I had a past life as an animal, which I assumed was a cat, and other small things that most people would brush off as kids being kids. Around the age of 9, I had thought I was a furry for these behaviors. But when I had learned about Therians and their traits, I basically had my eyes open for me. Suddenly, I had an explanation for why I had told my family all the time that I had ears on my head. It explained my utter fascination with certain traits of animals. And yeah, that's how I found out.
Awesome! Were there any animals you questioned as your stereotype before you came to the conclusion of a cross fox? And how did you figure out that cross foxes were your stereotype?
Absolutely. When I initially accepted that I was most likely a Therian, I immediately thought I was a wolf, because wolves were my hyper-fixated animals at the time, and a lot of my signs pointed towards canines. Of course, I came to the conclusion this was incorrect because I remembered at one point talking about claws, but not in a dog way, if that makes sense. Foxes are the only canines to be able to retract their claws like cats. Of course, I hadn't been sold on the fact that, on this, because I told myself foxes just couldn't make sense because the only fox I could think of was the famous red fox. And then I had a shift afterward that I saw like big black paws, but a reddish muzzle. One thing I learned is that most Therians that can shift end up having a ton of shifts when they first awaken. So I'm convinced that's probably why I had eventually had multiple shifts within like 2 months. It was kind of weird. Anyway, so the next animal that I was stuck on was a dhole. Can you put an image of that up, Toby? Thanks! Sorry. Dholes are basically like wolf foxes with long legs. Of course, they aren't either wolves nor foxes. They're their own thing. After analyzing my shift that led me to dholes, however, I decided that maybe I should look into foxes again. I mean, if wolves can have different shades, so can foxes. And yeah, that's how I found a cross fox. Basically, I had a lucky shift that let me see, oh wow, buddy, you don't have long legs.
Very cool. Do you have any other shifts you'd feel comfortable sharing, whether it be memories or just recent phantom shifts?
Of course. I typically have a muzzle phantom shift, which can be awkward. It's kind of funny, that's my most common shift. Basically, I get this weird heavy feeling in the front of my head, and it gets awkward when I try to talk. I don't fully understand why that occurs, so I can't really elaborate on it, but yeah. Most of my memory shifts were very close to my death or right towards the beginning of my life. I'm faintly aware at the beginning I had gotten trapped in a bear trap of some sorts, and I think I lived in a house or was a pet, but it's kind of hard to tell. What I remember best is crossing a street on one rainy night then getting run over. How sad. But I also commonly get tail shifts, which is fun because cross foxes have the bushiest tails compared to the rest of its kind, so when it swishes, it's super flowy and fun.
That does sound fun. Speaking of fun, have you had any experiences where therianthropy isn't fun?
Yeah, shifting at school is awkward. Last year I had a phantom shift in my... Not phantom shift. I had a shift in my English class, but my friend and I were sitting all the way in the back, and nobody noticed except her. That was not fun. Oh, and when I originally got the memory of my death, but then again, I was trying to make it occur because I wanted to know what happened. Just a heads up. Turns out when you hear a loud crash of thunder when you're showering and you have a memory pop up, you can get pretty startled. Oh, and then of course, the bullying, but that doesn't happen much anymore.
Oh yeah, that's not very good. What were the people close to you's reaction to you being a Therian?
Well, initially, my ex, when I was dating them, had apparently talked about me behind my back. He said he was weirded out about it at first, until he realized I was still the same person before and after telling them who I was. My mother was confused, my dad refused to understand, and most of my friends either were weirded out, confused, or just didn't care enough. But for the most part, I got more positive reactions than anything.
Well, that's good. Lastly, is there anything you're questioning as of now? Anything outside of the Therian community but inside the Alterhuman?
Yes, actually. I'm questioning if I'm some sort of butterfly or flying type of other-hearted. That's a term similar to Therians, but instead of, they do not identify as animals, but with, or have a connection to them. I'm also a fiction kin, but that's not a topic for now.
Awesome. Well, thank you for your time, Hunter. This has been fun. Say bye now.
Bye!
Well, folks, that about sums it up. I hope this was enjoyable for you and also informative. I had fun, and I hope you did too. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye-bye!